Hello, 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 dear readers, and welcome to yet another episode of A Chapter a Day with author moi, Christine E. Schulze, author of young adult fantasy, as well as a few kids' books that talk about special needs. And today we're going to be reading a selection. Are these called chapters? Not necessarily. So we're going to be reading a selection from this new book I picked up very recently called World of Wonders. And it's just about all these, beautiful creatures and wonders in nature that have inspired this author, Aimee N. I call her Aimee N because I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name and I don't want to just completely destroy it. For those of you who've seen my recent book haul, you'll recognize this book. But I'm going to go ahead and read the blurb again, just to make sure that people know what we're getting into. So strap on your elf ears. I'm going to read the blurb, and then we will also listen to a selection from the book. The blurb says, Aimee N has called many places home. The grounds of a Kansas mental institution, where her Filipino mother was a doctor. The open skies and tall mountains of Arizona, where she hiked with her Indian father. And the chillier climate of western New York, where she built a family of her own. But no matter where she was transplanted, no matter how awkward the fit or forbidding the landscape, she was able to turn to our world's fierce and funny creatures, the peacock and the axolotl, the narwhal and the red-spotted newt, the lovely and the unlovely alike, for guidance. In World of Wonders, she shares their lessons in gorgeously illustrated essays full of sustenance and joy. For it is this way with wonder. It requires that we are curious enough to look past the distractions in order to fully appreciate the world's gifts. So, gosh, where are they? So you can see a few over here. I know places to miss, guys, pardon. But I have this narwhal. I call him the fluffy wall. We have this little guy here. And we have this happy little fellow here. So if you guys can't guess, we're going to be reading the selection from about the narwhal. I have many favorite animals: fennec foxes, blue morpho butterflies, so many, red pandas. But I'm really into narwhals right now. They're like my current, newer, favorite animal. So each selection that talks about a different animal has these lovely illustrations. And let me see if I can just kind of, not go through all of them, but just kind of give you an idea. So she writes about the monarch butterfly, the firefly. So, oh my goodness, she writes about the cassowary. I have a friend who, don't get him started on cassowaries. He just learned that they exist recently, and he thinks that they are the most terrifying, fascinating thing that he's ever heard of. So I'm going to have to tell him about that. The whale shark. So you've got some pretty, more well-known animals, but then you've got the axolotl and the narwhals, the more quirky animals. Some flowers, like the touch-me-nots, and even there's a selection on a monsoon, so she must have, been inspired by that. Oh, dragon fruit. Very interesting fruit. If you've never eaten it, please do. It doesn't really have loads of taste, but it's very entertaining to eat and to make other people try. So, like I said, though, we're going to go ahead and read the selection about the narwhal. There he is again. And let's see what she has to say about the narwhal. The narwhal, and looks like I assume the Latin name is Monodon monoceros. And she says, my sister and I moved from Phoenix to Kansas at the end of 5th grade, this time leaving my father behind, along with a year of jelly sandals and new Coke and trying to catch Madonna on the Live Aid concert. My girlfriends in Arizona and I had swatches and jelly bracelets stacked up our thin brown wrists. All the boys I crushed on could breakdance. The only things I knew of Kansas were Dorothy and the Wizard, and tornadoes pointing their creepy fingers all over the state. My mom promised us a giant yard with abundant space to play soccer or throw a football, but I didn't fully understand until we moved how close to her workplace she meant when she talked about the hospital in our home. We lived on the grounds of the mental institution, something no kids had done in decades, and the school district had to create a bus stop just for us. When I climbed the school bus steps, I imagined myself a narwhal with one giant snaggletooth, a saber, to knock into anyone who asked if my sister and I were patients there. What better animal than the narwhal to blend in with all that cans and ice, all that white, all that snow? And what better animal to hold its own there? The narwhal is the most content swimming in chunky ice, rather than open sea, and can outrace most orca. They hunt formidably despite their cartoonish look and silly nickname, the unicorns of the sea, as Jules Verne first called them in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The narwhal's horn is actually a tooth with about 10 million nerve endings. Ooh. A long, helix spiral tooth that pokes through the upper left lip into the chilly Arctic Ocean. It's one of only 2 teeth they'll ever get in their lifetimes. All males have this long-in-the-tooth situation, but about 15% of female narwhals also have one, and some narwhals even have a double horn. No orthodontics magic can fix that affair. For a long time, scientists thought this tooth was just a hunting tool because narwhals were observed poking smaller fish with it to stun them before gobbling them up. But it's been widely accepted that this tooth also helps narwhals see underwater by having some of the most directed echolocation of any animal. That would explain all like the nerves and stuff too, right? Scientists believe that a narwhal can make up to 1,000 clicks per second that can be then transmitted out in narrow or wide rays to search for food or avoid ice. The tusk is also a sensory wand. It is sensitive to salt levels of the ocean and temperature changes too. The tooth is surrounded by a soft and porous outer layer and filled with a dense inner core packed with delicate nerve endings connected to the brain. Imagine how your teeth would feel after nibbling 2 or 3 popsicles in a row. Then, bowl after bowl of ice cream. Imagine a perpetual state of brain freeze in your mouth. Narwhals are found mainly in the Arctic Ocean, but occasionally a small pod of them wanders into a Canadian fjord. The word narwhal comes from the Old Norse word nar, which means like a corpse, due to the distinctive mottled skin that looks like the spotted skin color of drowned sailors. Well, that's cheery. Narwhals don't have a dorsal fin, and they have vertebrae in their neck that allow them to do a whale of a double take. The only other whales that share these unique traits are beluga. That makes sense. A narwhal kind of looks like a beluga, but with the horn. They eat cuttlefish, cod, and arm-hooked squid. Nothing too disturbing, right? But the way that they eat can be alarming. A narwhal will swim up to its food very stealthy-like, slow and steady, opening its mouth and inhaling like the world's scariest vacuum. And then in one giant and powerful gulp, it will swallow the unsuspecting animal whole. Did I mention that narwhals like to swim upside down? Can you imagine seeing a 3,000-pound narwhal sidling up to you upside down and slowly starting to open its mouth? Narwhals are apparently quite terrifying, but that makes me no less into them. If anything, it makes me more into them. Who are these toothy creatures' predators? Orcas and the occasional polar bear sometimes hunt baby narwhals. When orcas go after an entire pod, the narwhals just dive, dive, dive. They can survive at almost 5,000 feet below sea level. And yet, narwhals are classified as almost threatened because humans hunt them for their teeth and valuable fat supply, of course. One afternoon in Kansas, my sister and I were riding the school back to the doctor's quarters. As we neared home, I saw my mom in our driveway, unpacking groceries from the car. A chunky blonde boy on the bus asked if my mom was Chinese. When I said no, she was actually Filipino, he flipped his eyelids inside out. I cringed and groaned. I can still picture the greasy, dark, who knows what jammed under his fingernails. Can still see his belly hanging over his Wrangler jeans as he chortled at his own joke. And then, as if flipping his eyelids wasn't enough, he hefted the skin at the corner of his eyes and pulled it to his ears. I bet she's Chinese. Her eyes don't even look like yours. Ice. Snow. The white plastic of the milk jug she was carrying in each hand as she smiled at the bus, scanning the faces of all those staring kids for her own. I wanted to dive deep, deep into the darkest of seas so no orcas could find me. I had no sword, and worse, no sharp tongue with which to sass him back. Instead, I just stared straight ahead, gathered up my books, and left without saying goodbye to poor Mr. Johnson, the kindly driver. The narwhal taught me what it was like to see through sound what that boy, someone I would have called my friend until that day, really was. I could not have known that just 1 hour south of Lawrence State Hospital, the person I would eventually marry, the father of my sons, was likely practicing layups in his driveway or hitting baseballs into a field not too far from a buffalo range. Just 1 hour away from my life's love. 1 hour. A white boy who would one day take my brown hand in his, putting it to his heart when he makes a promise so I can feel his heartbeat and the warmth residing there. That's so cute. If only the narwhal could have taught me how to listen for those clicks of connection, that echo reverberating back to me. But back then, in 6th grade, all I could see was the dirty snow kicked up in the street by hospital security patrolling for escapees. I know I was quiet that night, and I couldn't figure out why, didn't have the words. It wasn't shame exactly, nor anger exactly, but something like a wasp stinger in the fleshy pad just under my thumb. The pain lingered. Later that spring, a different boy, the smartest, the fastest runner in my class, gave me a ring set with a pink faux zirconia the day after he found out we were moving. To remember me by, he said quietly at recess. The gem sparkled, but even then I blanched. I barely liked boys, and I remember thinking it was too much attention, too much shine, too serious. All I wanted was for him to keep picking me first in kickball teams, have my back if anyone else cracked some racist joke to me again, maybe sit next to me in the cafeteria once in a while, but it was too late. We were going back to Arizona. Still, I had learned there was more to this flat state than a whirl of wind and yellow brick roads. There were good kids here. Kids who, no matter what they learned from television or their own parents, would still reach out for my hand for a hug, who would miss me on the playground, the way I loved to hang upside down from the monkey bars with my knees and yelp at the clouds at my feet. I learned that all sunflowers eventually turn toward the sun. Sunflowers so full, my mom would stop her little Chevy Chevy on the side of the road and snap pictures of me and my sister in front of a whole field to send to my dad. We miss you. We're doing fine in Kansas, but we miss you and we'll see you soon. This was our signal, sent across the sea of flowers to my dad 5 states away. We're okay. Our pod had stuck together. We had made it through the ice and snow and into the spring. Our pod was safe. And there's this nice little random illustration of all the animals. And now that I'm looking at this a little bit closer, I suppose this is a memoir. So it sounds like, if you start at the beginning, that she's just kind of maybe going through her whole life, but comparing, her life to these different animals and creatures and flowers and natural wonders that have inspired her. And, oh, look at him. It's an axolotl. Since I turned the page, we gotta look at that. Super cute. So, yeah, so that's the introduction to the world of wonders. If you like this book, links are below of where you can pick up a copy, or I'm sure you can find it at your local bookstore. Especially since it is, a Barnes & Noble Book of the Year. You can definitely find it there. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Happy reading. May you be inspired. And I'll see you in my next video.